What is up? What is going on, everybody? I am back with another video, and I am back with the Seattle Seahawks post game recap. I apologize for being up late. Had some family stuff going on as we get ready for the holiday season. So I just didn't have a chance to make the video last night. It wasn't because of the way they lost, and I was trying to avoid coming on here, although it probably was for the best. But I'm always here, win, lose, tie, whatever. I'll talk about it. In fact, like I said, it's always therapeutic for me to come on and talk about these things. So thank you to everybody that you guys allow me to do that, and let me know what you think of this game in the comments. Do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. Two quick, easy ways to help support my channel. I always talk about myself kind of trying to be a voice of reason. That's why, it comes to baseball demerits. I'm not always just yelling at the front office, ownership, and the coaching staff, because I think things are a lot more nuanced in sports, and same for the Seahawks. But I might need you guys today to get me off the ledge a little bit, because that game hurt. That one really got to me for some reason. And it makes sense. It was a close loss, right? Seattle had a chance to win it late, had the lead for most of it. That is a loss that would make you upset. I think most of you that are Seahawks fans are probably very upset about that loss. And sometimes when you lose a game, you can bounce back pretty quickly. Or you look at the schedule and go, listen, that stunk, but we got Carolina next week or something. So should be able to bounce back and get a W. Not only was this loss devastating and hurt, and I'm going to dive into it, but now you've got the next four where you've got the Niners twice, Dallas, Philly. Might not have Geno. Almost certainly won't have Kenneth Walker for at least a couple of those. You know, you could play pretty well in those four games and lose all four. Like, you could play decent football, and those are just better teams than you and beat you four times. So it's just really tough. And I said, like, I still think this team probably makes the playoffs. Their last three games are all pretty winnable. You can find a way to sneak one game in the next four, then win 2 out of 3. That's 9 wins. Almost certainly gets you into the postseason. And I think they will get there. But what are we wanting from this team? Do we want this team to get in the postseason, play San Francisco, and maybe get crushed? And listen, I don't know. Maybe they beat San Francisco on Thursday. I don't want to go too far deep into it, or are we wanting this team to take the next step forward? And there's some things they've taken a step forward on, but there's other things where there continues to be some frustration. So let's dive into this game a little bit here. First and foremost, and I'm glad I didn't come on yesterday and do this, because I normally try not to, because at the end of the day, the players got to play. The officiating was absolutely garbage yesterday. And I'm sorry. And I'm not, if you're a Rams fan, watch this, I'm not taking away at all. If Seattle would have won the game getting calls, that's not your fault. It's not your problem. That's not, I don't apologize if my team wins. I don't expect anybody to apologize for it. But the officiating was just so garbage. At best, you could give them, they called it way too tight of a game. Because the Rams did have a lot of penalties too. But man, it seemed like Seattle's were way more crucial. The PI on Witherspoon, that's not PI. Like, he's got him a little bit in the hip. I hate this is a cliche, but if you're going to call that PI, then every single pass in the NFL is pass interference. Every single one. Kendrick had one on DK Metcalf where he was mugging him way more than what Witherspoon did to Nakua. But Nakua fell down and tripped, so you get the flag. The PI on Woolen in the first quarter, it was not a catchable ball. Maybe you could call holding there. I don't know. But, I mean, it ended up not mattering. The Rams didn't score on that drive. But that was not catchable. The hands to the face on Woolen, like, I get it. It probably was. And so I shouldn't really be complaining about this one. But it's 3rd and 15. The throw is to the other side of the field. Like, the spirit of the rules is supposed to be when it impacts the play. Like, I don't know. But I thought the officiating crew was absolutely garbage. And then in the last play, Geno Smith talks about the headset going out. Now I'll dive into what they did on that play. I'm not going to defend necessarily how they did it, but then the headset goes out. Boy, if you're a conspiracy theorist, this game did give you a lot of ammo. I will say that for certain, because the headset just happens to go out on the most important play in the game. Interesting. And Seattle could have handled that better, and they should just spike the ball there. But, and I'm not, listen, I do not believe, I've probably made some comments on Twitter. You get a few drinks and you say things. I don't believe the sport is rigged. There's no reason for it to be. Like, the NFL makes enough money. It would be a disaster for them to be determined it was rigged. But I do think sometimes, listen, betting is huge. I don't think games are rigged, like players are in on it rigged. But I do think there are times where officials are told, if it's 50-50, you need to lean this way. Now, sometimes nothing you can do. A team just blows another team out. But I do think there are some times, and I don't know, man, this might not have been it. I probably shouldn't even go on this rant, but I'm sorry. It was just atrocious yesterday with the officiating. But it is what it is. Seattle still did plenty of stuff where they still could have won the game and they still shot themselves in the foot enough. Like, I can get on the Woolen penalty and going, why are you throwing that? But that's like the sixth time this year Tariq Woolen has done that too. So, it is what it is. And Seattle's gotten PI calls their way before. It usually evens out, but just frustrating. So let's get into the crux of the game itself. Sorry, just plug into my phone here. Um, I don't know where to really be mad. And I just talked about the officiating, but I'm usually one to say the officiating never truly cost you a game. You've got to overcome it. You know, I could sit there and blame Drew Lock because Gino gets hurt, and that could be another thing that happens on Thursday if Gino doesn't play. And gutsy performance by Gino to come back in and get them in position to win the game. I will say this, like 100%. Well, let me start with Drew Lock. Drew Lock was not good. He was terrible. I actually thought a couple of his throws weren't bad throws. The timing was a little off. It looked like with JSN. There was a couple that were actually decent balls, but just timing was off. I don't even mind the shot to Lockett. In fact, I get with Drew Lock taking a shot. He's got a strong arm. You're up by 2 scores. If you can get in position for one more score, you probably win the game. So giving Lock one shot to hit a bomb, not the worst plan in the world, actually. I know it sounds crazy. But man, Drew, and listen, Drew Lock was in a tough spot. Coming in the middle of the game is not easy to do. Some quarterbacks succeed. Drew Lock was bad, but it's not an easy thing to do, right? To come in the middle of the game, you're not warmed up, you're not necessarily ready to go, and you're thrown into the fire of, a fairly close game. It was a 2-score game, but, a close, obviously it was close enough. The Rams still came back and won. Not easy to do. So I'm not going to sit there and just blame. It's not Drew Lock's fault, but I do think if Geno Smith stays healthy, Seattle probably wins this game. They probably get in position for maybe one more field goal that would have just been enough to win this football game. I do think this should end any debate about Lock versus Geno. I get it. Lock took 8 snaps. He shouldn't be judged on that. But I've already never been a Drew Lock fan. I think maybe as a backup, not the worst guy in the world, but not very good. I still think Seattle should be looking to draft a quarterback. I think it's a position that could use an upgrade and an influx of young talent, but there is zero doubt in my mind that Geno Smith is the better quarterback. It's never been a doubt in my mind, but just to confirm it, I think yesterday did a lot to that. And Geno comes in with the injury and almost leads them on a game-winning drive. Let's talk about that drive for a second. So Seattle gets down to the 40, about 30 seconds to go, clock's ticking. Geno Smith said the headset went out, so he couldn't get a play call. He said he audibled or picked what he thought in that instance, all he could really think of. And I get like that's tough. 28 seconds, you're ready for the play call. It's not coming in. Quarterback, that's a tough spot, right? Like, I think we could all agree that's not easy to handle. I think we could also all agree probably should just spike the ball there. You spike it. You've got 28 seconds. You can go to the sideline, talk to Pete, talk to Shane, get a call in and get a play call or design in there that can maybe pick up a few more yards. I'm actually not against running the football in that instance. Sometimes if a team's got a lighter box because they're anticipating a throw, you can get a cheap 5, 6, 7 yards there, which is I think what was the goal of that play, was to kind of get a free 5 and make it, a 50, 49 yarder versus a 57, 58 yarder instead of only got 2 or 3 yards. So, it's certainly misplayed all around. The headset thing's annoying. Listen, it's not the first time a headset's gone out in a football game, but yeah, most crucial time it goes out. Geno should have spiked the ball, especially with the headset going out, been like, hey, we need to set up and just spike this. There would have been plenty of time, probably to spike it around 26, 27 seconds. That's more than enough time, even with a throw in bounds, to get down and get a field goal going there. So a shame with the headset, but also I thought misplayed by Geno in that instance. Again, I'm not, just like I said, I'm not going to blame Joel. I'm not going to blame Geno either. He's in a tough spot. Jason Myers. Do we blame Jason Myers? Well, yes, a little bit. I'm actually going to be maybe a little harsher on Myers than some. Again, I don't fully put the loss on anybody. Even if it was a 24-yarder, I'm not going to put the loss on one player. Football is the ultimate team sport. And Myers did make a 54-yarder and a 52-yarder in this game. If he doesn't make those kicks, we don't even have a chance late in the game. But Jason Myers is like a top 5 paid kicker in this league, right? He is one of the more expensive kickers. He's not a rookie free agent picked up off the street. He's not, a waiver claim or anything like that. He's paid like an elite kicker. And he's just not. He's just not an elite kicker. Listen, he was 5 for 5 last week, kicked the game winner. This loss is not on Jason Myers. It's making 350-yard plus 50+ yard field goals in a game is not easy to do, right? Like that is not an easy task outside of maybe Justin Tucker. But at the same time, like you're in a dome, there's no wind or weather there affecting you. Like it is possible. Like it's not an impossible kick. It was long, but it wasn't 66 or 62. 55 is very makeable. We've seen plenty of 55-yarders made. Myers essentially made one earlier in this game. So, it's not on Jason Myers, but I will say, like, dude, you're highly paid. Like, and when you're paid that much, you're being paid that much to make those kicks, right? Like, if you're giving a kicker like Justin Tucker makes a lot of money for the Ravens, right? Because Justin Tucker will make those kicks. He'll make a 60-yarder in the clutch with very little sweat from the Ravens players, fans, or coaching staff. Like Jason Myers is paid really well. He is a kicker with one of the rare kickers that has like a guaranteed job, right? Like kickers and other teams are going through left and right. I don't think Jason Myers is bad, despite some of the misses, but like you're paid enough to make that kick, dude. Like, so I don't know. Like, I'm again not blaming Myers for the loss or anything. Even if Myers missed 4 kicks, like the offense should do more in that instance, get the drives going more. But still a kick that I'm sorry, paid a lot of money. I think you can make it. I'm not going to just write off and say, oh, it's too hard for him to make. He can make that kick. The offense. Let's move on to the offense overall. Listen, I'm going to throw away the 2-3 Drew Lock drives they had. I don't think there's much you could do there. Lock's got a strong arm. They tried a couple shots. Again, I don't blame them. You're hoping one play, maybe get a flag or something. Lock's got a decent deep ball. Maybe connects on one of them. Boom, you're in range. There were a couple third and shorts where I wish they would have tried running it, even with Drew Lock in there. I think the first play he came into was like a 3rd and 3 or something. Like, give it to Charbonnet, see what happens. The offense started out great. Seems to really be the staple of Shane Waldron, right? And I have some frustrations with Shane Waldron. I don't think he's a bad OC. In fact, I think he's actually a pretty good play designer. I think it was Jeff Simmons who mentioned it on Hawk Bloggers podcast. I mentioned before. I think he said, I wonder if Waldron's a good play designer, but not a good play caller. And it makes some sense. Like the first 15 scripted plays were great. It was really diverse too. They had Bobo in the backfield on a couple of them. I love when they had Walker and Charbonnet in there together. Now that's not on Waldron. Walker got hurt. Maybe that was a plan. You can't do anything after that when Walker gets hurt. But they had some really cool play designs. And then they just seemed to get away from it after those first scripted plays. They seem to kind of go away from it and just, I don't want to say they don't adjust well because, again, I'm not in that locker room. I'm sure they are making adjustments, but they just seem to get a little more vanilla as the game goes along. And I wonder if that's Waldron. When he can sit there in the office and draw up 15 plays, it's great. Like he's got good designs. But when you have to adjust on the fly, he seems to be struggling. And I've said it before, and I know it sounds really weird, but when things go right, he gets in a rhythm, he does a good job. But when things go off a little bit, he seems to struggle. I know it sounds stupid because it's like, well, Jay, of course, when things go right, he looks good. When things go wrong, he looks bad. That's how life works. But my point is more that, like, there are some guys when things get rolling, they kind of hop in and can add on and do it. But are they the person that can pull you out of the sludge? Where's the play calls when they're struggling to just get them out of it? That one play design, it's like, boom, this is it. Now the offense is rolling. And that's kind of what I'm saying. When the players seem to struggle, Waldron has a tough time adapting. When everything's going right, the play calls are great and they're moving. But I don't know. I just have some concerns. I'm not on a fire, Shane. First of all, let's wait till the end of the year. Let's see what happens before we talk about coaching replacements and stuff. But there's some things I like about Shane Waldron, but there's also some things that drive me nuts. I will say this, the Rams did a good job. Seattle tried their play action rollouts, which have been largely successful for them. And they did go to more tight end sets, which have been successful for them. And you also had Tyler Lockett was banged up, didn't play as many snaps. You lost Kenneth Walker. Geno Smith got hurt. So Waldron was also dealing with some things, and he still without his right tackle. So, like, it's not all, just like with Geno, just like with Locke, just like with Myers. It's not all on Shane Waldron or anything. There's some tough stuff there. And I lost my train of thought. But yeah, the Rams did a nice job. I thought with Seattle's rollouts and play action, they defended them really well. There wasn't that one open guy that Seattle had. Sometimes you just get that one guy that gets open, or the pass protection didn't hold up. I think we talk about this team missing Abe Lucas. It would have been great to see Lucas get some snaps. If he was healthy enough. If he wasn't healthy enough, he wasn't healthy enough. Nothing you can do. But I'm a little worried that if Lucas does come back, like that's great, but his first start back is going to be against Chase Young or Nick Bosa. That's not going to be fun for anybody. That's a tough one when you miss 10 weeks, no matter how good you are. The rotations kind of need to stop. I don't mind it so much at right tackle. I think Peters looks better, but just a couple weeks ago, I thought Forsyth looked better. But the right guard rotation was weird. They put Anthony Bradford in. I think he got beat bad by Donald once. Maybe it might have actually been Haynes and that was the play that got Geno hurt. I don't know. I feel like the rotation stuff just stick with somebody. We'll see. I wonder if Peters gets right guard reps when Lucas is back, but I don't know. That drives me nuts. But of course, it's always after a loss that drives me nuts. I'm trying to think of anything else I've got. The injuries, mounting up here. Defensively, let's talk about the defense. I thought they were fine. Listen, they held the Rams to 17 points. You should win most games where you hold an opponent to 17, right? Like you should. But another game that they didn't close out. Like they had a chance against Washington last week to close it out. Couldn't do it. They had a chance this week again. Despite everything, despite as bad as Drew Lock was and everything, and even the turnover, yes, Lock threw an interception, but it was essentially like a medium punt, right? Like it wasn't a disaster turnover that happened in their own red zone. And the defense couldn't get a stop. They got a stop and held the Rams to a field goal in the last drive, but they couldn't keep the Rams off the board. They held them to 7 points for 52 minutes and then let up 10 and 8 minutes. Like, I'm not blaming the defense because overall they did enough, right? The defense did enough. But again, game on the line, a chance to close this one out. And they couldn't do it, and sometimes the LOB would have game. I'm not trying to compare this defense to the LOB. That's not fair. But there were games the offense sputtered and the LOB would find a way to close it out. Like we've seen teams like the Eagles and Niners. Sometimes their offense is off, but their defense will close it out. And Seattle's defense could have done that. They could have made the Drew Lock, Geno Smith thing moot. And they didn't. So, and again, it's a tough one. It falls in the same category as Drew Lock. Can I blame Drew Lock? Not really. It's a tough spot. I mean, he deserves some blame. Can I fully blame Jason Myers? No, it's a 55-yarder, but does he deserve some blame? Yeah. I fully blame Shane Waldron? No, he lost his starting running back, his quarterback, one of his best wide receivers missed some time. So do I fully blame him? No. Like, can I fully blame the defense? No, they did a pretty good job on Stafford. They did better on Nakua. Cooper Kupp got hurt. They did okay against the run game. There was a couple big runs, but for the most part, they held the Rams' run game in check. But they also had a 2-score lead with about 9 minutes to go that they couldn't hold on to. So it's such a double-edged sword, and it makes it tough because I really don't know who to put the blame on. Some of it goes on Pete, like it's his team. And I don't know what this team really is. They're 6-4. They're not bad by any means. And they're a tough team to talk about. I said it with the Mariners a lot because I've had people like, oh, hey, what's, you don't seem as angry at the Mariners. I'm like, here's the thing. If the Mariners were winning World Series, there'd be nothing to complain about. I'd be happy. But they're also not losing 110 games. Like they're not bad enough to just make fun of and say, oh, tear it down. Like they won 88 games. Seahawks are kind of in that boat too. Like they're not good enough to just be like sunshine rainbows, but they're not bad enough for me to be like, this is a garbage, atrocious organization. Like they're 6-4. I still think they're in the midst of a rebuild a little bit. This is a strong rookie class that's still developing. Devin Witherspoon with the sack, by the way, that was 3rd sack of the year, which is impressive. And an offense that probably needs still a little help on the line and maybe a young quarterback to come in. I like Geno, but I'd still like to see some young talent come in there at quarterback. I think that's absolutely fair. I don't think Drew Lock is the answer, and I don't want to see Drew Lock play, although we may have to. So I don't know. Like, they're not bad, but is this team winning a Super Bowl? I don't think so. Like, it would be like a miraculous run. I mean, the 07 Giants won a Super Bowl, so it wouldn't be the craziest thing ever for this team to do it, but they're certainly not like a favorite for it. Right now, what they look like to me is a wild card team that might get in. Maybe if you're lucky, you get the 5th seed and you go to Atlanta, New Orleans, and you can get a win. But if not, like, I don't see them they're not going to, I don't see them going into San Francisco and winning a playoff game. Truthfully, right now, I don't know if I see them going into Detroit and win. I know it sounds crazy they beat Detroit this year, and Detroit almost lost to Chicago yesterday. So maybe like at least we know what the formula is to beat Detroit versus some other teams. But I don't know. I don't know. And then you got these next 4 games. I'm sorry for this video going so long, but now you got 4 games coming up that, like I said, you could play okay and lose all 4 of these games. Like they could play decent football and go 0-4. And they could be at 6-8. And that might be on the outside looking in at that point. The Rams are 2 games back you, and they have the tiebreaker over you. So that was another reason. You win yesterday, you can probably go 0-4 in the next 4, and you're probably fine. Like, and if you find a way to win 1, you're probably a lock for the playoffs. Now you almost have to find a way to win one of these. And something tells me my gut they probably will. Like, I don't know which one, but something tells me they probably do find a way to win one. But now you've got Kenneth Walker. Pete Carroll said it's a pretty serious oblique injury. So unless we get some better reports this morning, I doubt Walker's playing Thursday, maybe the next week, but at minimum, he's probably going to miss this week. I think that's survivable. I think it'll be cool to see Kenny McIntosh get some touches, and I think Charbonnet is good enough, but it's still a weapon you're going to be missing against San Francisco. And there's a decent chance Geno doesn't play. Like, I already am skeptical they can beat the Niners, but without Geno, and I get if you don't like Geno, whatever, but they're not winning with Drew Lock. Like, they're not beating the 49ers with Drew Lock at quarterback unless Brock Purdy just fumbles 5 snaps and a miracle happens or something. It's just not happening. So your good chance you're looking at 6-5 going to Dallas. Maybe then you can get Geno back. Like I said, find a way to win one of the next 3. I don't know. Frustrating game. I don't really know where to pinpoint. It's a little bit of everything. The offense did some good things. They scored on their first 3 possessions. I get we want more touchdowns, but they still scored in their first 3 possessions. Most teams would take 13 points in their first 3 possessions. Actually, they scored 16 on 4 of their first 5 possessions. Then Geno got hurt. But the offense still didn't do enough. The defense played all right, but they still didn't do enough. Jason Myers played well, didn't do enough. Geno played well, didn't do enough. Drew Lock did not do anything well and didn't do enough. Shane Waldron did well, but didn't do enough. It is all this. And I'll echo, if you guys watch Hawk Blogger, what he said yesterday about McVay versus Pete. I agree with him 100%. I don't think this was anything with McVay owns Pete. I thought week 1 was a little bit of that. Thought McVay called a great game in week 1 against Seattle and kind of took Pete to school. I didn't see that yesterday. Not that McVay called a bad game, but I didn't see anything where I thought, like, oh man, McVay just took Pete to school. I thought it was a fairly even game that the Rams pulled out. I thought there were some questionable calls, and Seattle didn't do enough. And still at the end, 55-yarder with no elements, a chance to win it, and couldn't do it. So if you guys please got anything optimistic for me, shove it at me, give it to me. I need you guys today. Listen, this team's still 6-4. They're actually still in a really good position to make the playoffs. I really wish they had played the Niners in week 3 and were 5-5 and playing the Panthers this week or something to or their game against Tennessee. I don't want to get on a team like Tennessee or Pittsburgh because they're capable, but I'd feel a lot better if they were playing one of those teams this week, a chance for a bounce back. I don't know. Maybe it's better if Geno does miss this game and let Locke take the pound and get Geno healthy and hopefully win another one somewhere else. We'll see what happens, but you never know. Listen, Seattle's done some weird things. They're 6-4. I'm talking about this team like they're 2-8. They're not. It's not the craziest thing if they beat the Niners. I know. I just went through how they have no chance, but it would not be the craziest upset in NFL history if Geno can play. I think they could do it. And if you can find a way to win Thursday, the craziest thing is, what the crazy thing is? If they win Thursday, they're in first place. Despite everything, they're playing for the lead in the NFC West on Thursday. Thursday night's for first place. If they win Thursday, you're in first place. And I'm sitting, this is what makes this so crazy with this team. There's a part of me, it's like this team has no chance to even get in now. And yet if they find a way on Thursday, they'd have a home game in the playoffs, potentially. I don't know if they'd hold that tiebreaker because they could lose in San Francisco, but at the moment, they would be your first place Seahawks. So we'll see what happens. Go Hawks. Thank you for watching, everybody, and listening to this. I know it went a little longer than I thought. Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy your Monday. Go Hawks. I will see you guys Thursday or Friday for that post-game recap. I'll probably have a game preview up this week because it's a pretty big game. and I think it's worth talking about. So I'll probably have a pregame up this week, and some more Mariners videos coming soon, as well as hopefully we get some more moves from the team. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Go Hawks. Remember to like, comment, and sub. Peace.